Welcome to another top list. First of all, I want to thank everybody for being so supportive on our previous videos. I would ask that you take this time to please like, comment, and subscribe. Only about 23% of you are subscribed to the channel, so I'd love to bring more of you in. The first game we're going to be taking a look at today is Decisive Campaigns Barbarossa. Of course, focusing on the German blitzkrieg of the Soviets. Much like other games that we show on this channel, you can play on either side in this game. What makes this such a fascinating game is not only is it an operational level war game, but it's also an ethical and moral war game, because as a general of either side, you're going to have to make decisions, sometimes very brutal decisions, like, for instance, burning down a village or not giving your men supplies or giving ammunition to one army and not another. And I just think it's absolutely beautiful. I'm going to jump right in and just show you a little bit of the gameplay the game has. But again, if you have a favorite game in this genre, make sure to let me know in the comments. So when you start the actual game, you're going to go over here to the reps button, and this is going to kind of tell you about the start of the campaign, what it's about. It's also going to tell you the relationships you have with the Chief of Staff, the Reichsführer SS, military advisors, etc. And you're going to have to make decisions throughout the game. This is an example. We've been summoned to Berlin by the Führer himself. And so we need to go ahead and make a decision whether we support him, whether we want to go all the way to Moscow or bust, or whether we want to focus on military independence away from the Führer. But of course, we need to go there and either support Moscow or bust or demand military independence. I wouldn't recommend this unless you want to be shot. So we are going to focus on Moscow or bust. And what this would do is, as you can see, we gained some support with different people. We lost support with the Führer, but we gained support maybe with Hermann Franke, the Chief of Staff. Now, we also have to select different routes for the army. So this is going to be the route for Army Group North. And this is all about which line to focus on. Again, you're going to do this little by little throughout the game, but this is only a few of the decisions you're going to make. And as you move through, the decisions are going to get more and more, let's say, controversial. I am going to guarantee a 2-day break here for our construction battalions. Not something we would usually do if we were actually going through an actual campaign, but you can always review the decision and you can change it up. Now let's get to the actual combat. That's what we're all here for, let's be honest. Also, there is an operational map. There's a lot of little things to use to, of course, look at, but we're going to proceed here. And we've delegated 3 decisions. It's now, of course, going to turn over to the Soviet AI, make all sorts of calculations. Much like a lot of the other games on this list, one of the keys is, of course, cutting off the enemy supply. On top of everything, the command organization is too ponderous to effect swift operational regrouping in reaction to our attack, and so the Russians will have to accept battle in the disposition which they were deployed. AKA, we're going to be kicking some ass here. And you can see here, once again, the aide-de-camp is going to tell us about the relationships and whether we're doing well or not. We also get this really cool war diary from a guy named Hugo, and Hugo will play through our campaign with us, and he might live or he may die. He's part of Army Group North, so it's usually tied to how Army Group North is doing as to whether Hugo is going to live or die. But the game has a very interesting system of actual battle here. You, of course, just want to select the unit that you're going to be attacking, and we can take a list of the different units around. I'm going to be using the infantry, and as you can see, there is concentric bonuses. This means we have the unit surrounded, but we also have a stack, and you don't want to go over the stack. So 194 of 200, that's perfect. Let's go ahead and attack, and let's see how our attack did. So as you can see, the enemy unit retreated, and we even have a little detail panel which gives you like exact, explanations of who got killed, who survived, etc. I just love this level of detail in these games. It really, really adds to it. As you can see, that area has now opened up a bit, and I'm actually going to use our Totenkopf division to slam into these 2 Soviets. So let's take this guy, and this guy, and again, we're going to do the same thing, attack. Of course, early on in Barbarossa, the goal is to break through Soviet lines and start surrounding them. That is the best case scenario. But I think you guys have noticed I'm not using my tanks. And that's because I want my tanks to actually bust through and actually surround the Soviets. A lot of movement there. And once again, we could take this tank. And as you can see, I can already start cutting off some Soviet lines. But that's just the combat of this game. Obviously, you've got all of these generals to support, for each individual army group. And of course, our Romanian allies, although they're not currently unlocked this turn, but they will be unlocked in subsequent turns. Again, if we go back to the reps here, civilian oil allocation, basically how we want to use the civilian oil, and we are going to request civilian oil allocation reduced by 1/4. So we'll give them a little bit of oil, but we need to use it for ourselves. As for Russian oil, we need to make a decision here too. And let's request priority refining capacity. I want that delicious Russian oil as soon as possible. But I hope you guys get the idea. I think this game is extremely deep. And of course, we're just on turn 1. But as you advance through the game, you're going to see the moral decisions that are brought to you, the ethical decisions brought to you, and sort of how you respond to them determines whether you get along with the more fanatical Germans or the more military-based ones, or even the anti-war ones. I mean, there's so many different routes to take here in decisive campaigns, Barbarossa. War in the East too. And again, if you're looking for depth, this might be the deepest you can go. This is, of course, a Gary Grigsby game. It's absolutely fascinating. I just want to show you guys the different campaigns you have here. And these are massive campaigns. I'm talking absolutely massive. You can see the turn start and turn end. You can, of course, focus on the Soviets or, of course, playing as the Axis. It's totally up to you. We are going to be playing as the Axis today, just to show you a little bit. You could even do the whole Stalingrad to Berlin campaign. I'm going to be just taking a look at the very basic 1943 campaign. It's recommending that we change our difficulty setting to challenging. We're not going to be doing that just yet. But of course, I would recommend starting from the very beginning. I just want to show you guys kind of how the game plays. So we're jumping into the 1943 campaign. As you can see, the Germans are on the back foot. You could take a look at the armies here, and the Soviets are looking a whole lot better in terms of manpower. As you can see, we've got 0 here in terms of defense. Really, we can barely withstand a strike. But it does a great job, as you can see, of showing all of the terrain. Just a beautiful look at the terrain. The weather also, when it rains or when it snows, you'll see it represented. You do also get some events. So it's sort of a little situation report of what's going on. And depending on how you do, that can change, for the better or for the worse. In this case, I just kind of wanted to show you guys a strike. I don't think we're necessarily going to do well, but we're going to try anyway. Let's go ahead and just attack here. No, as you can see, we're not even strong enough to attack. This could also be due to the fact that we need to play our air game first. So that's another beautiful thing about this game is before you start an infantry turn, you get to control the air war. And since we're on the defensive here, I am going to go for a ground support directive here. I am going to execute it, but actually, before we execute it, you can do this entirely by yourself. It depends on what level of depth you're really looking for. What I usually do is select AI. I know I'm terrible. You can also automate the depot management. So this is all about logistics, the weapons and ammunition getting to your troops, et cetera, and where it's going to be going. And of course, just like the previous game, you're going to have to decide where you want to allocate those resources, or just let the AI do it like I did there. Let's go ahead and execute those air directives. And you'll actually see the sorties down below. You'll see how many men we lost in air combat, or how many planes, I should say, how many men the Soviets lost, etc., etc. And of course, you can have a focus of just recon photos, get a lot of information about the lines. But in this case, I really need our planes to help us in the upcoming battles. Because again, the odds are not on our side, to put it simply. So let's do a few strikes here. I just want you guys to get a visual of kind of what it's like. I'm looking for the best part of the line. There really is no best part right now, but we'll bring a tank over, a tank army over, I should say. We'll select both, and we're going to go strike this position here. And that's a deliberate attack. And again, I love this. Look at the, of course, the amount of losses on each side. The enemy lost 2,568. We lost 1,343. We also get the names of the infantry divisions, the names of the corps above the divisions, and the commander here. It seems to be Herr Zorn against Galanin and Rudenko. And we forced the enemy to retreat. So not so bad. That's kind of the idea, of course, in the game, is to try and break through the Soviet lines. But it's a challenge. And in this 1943 start, it's even more of a challenge, that's for sure. Let's go for another strike here, and I'm just going with these 3 divisions. And it looks like, once again, we routed the enemy with unbelievable casualties on their side. But trust me, the Soviets can take a beating. And my goal would be to try and get these tanks around them, somehow surround their army. If you can cut an enemy army off, and this is true for the previous game as well, if you can cut them off from supply for a few turns, it gets to the point where they have no more supply left, of course, and they will surrender. And that's what you're looking for. In this particular game, the most valuable casualty, yeah, I guess the most valuable casualty type would be taking somebody prisoner. That's absolutely massive in this game. Also, taking the victory locations is going to be very important. And you can see Voronezh, Kursk, these cities are huge. And did I mention the map is huge? I mean, just look at this. Like, it's just, it doesn't get much better than this. But of course, I do recommend the 1941 start, really get an early start on things and see how far you can go before the Soviet tide pushes you back, or maybe you make it all the way to Moscow. Who knows? You might be a better player than me. I've never actually done it. Those of you that have been here long enough knew that I was going to jump on this one. Yes, it's different from the other 2 operational level strategy games that we just looked at, but it is by all means, in my opinion, the best, or one of the best, World War II strategy games you can play. As you can see here, there are a ton of campaigns to choose from both the Soviet or the German side, all focusing on the Eastern Front. There are additional DLC that you can get for different wars, like the South African Border War, which is pretty awesome. But again, we're just going to kind of jump in, and I just want to show you what it looks like. So you've got this initial map drawing, and actually this is quite a small campaign. Let's go to something a little more impressive than that. But the idea is, you know, kind of over time, building up a sort of a plan and carrying it out. It's that simple. We can march all of these units forward as an example. Now, usually the game has tanks. In this case, we've got a bunch of infantry here, but you're still going to see just how amazing of a game this is. In terms of war games, like I said, I really think this stands the test of time. And we're going to get into a nice little fight here. I'll probably actually, I don't like what that fight looks like, go to a different campaign just so that you guys can see some of the action in game. And I absolutely think that this game, Graviteam Tactics Minus Front and Graviteam Tactics, are just fantastic. You've got to check them out, especially if you like large-scale battles, things like that. This definitely has that, which makes it, I think, a little different from the previous two games in the sense that you can actually watch the battle in this game, watch it take place, and I think that's just damn cool. So we're going to advance on this location. I just want to get close enough so you guys can see some gunshots happen, and we'll see how the Soviets hold up here. Again, enemy has their operations too, and we're going to jump into the battle. So here we go, guys. So So again, really pretty. I know there are better looking games these days, but I think it's absolutely beautiful. And the goal is we're attacking this town of Odinsov. So we've got all these different groups that we can sort of set up in any way we wish. Sometimes the terrain won't allow us to put a particular group in a particular area. Some of the icons also correspond to different things. So these things that kind of look like two sticks put together, they're either going to be a machine gun or they're going to be a mortar. And we're going to push those up all the way. And once again, we're simply going to launch an attack. I'm just going to do a straightforward attack. You can see there's a bunch of different things in the UI. For, you can have your infantry just fire at other infantry. You can have it just fire at armor, etc. But for now, we're simply going to go ahead and order an attack. We'll try to push a few forward there to make the attack happen a bit sooner. But we'll return when the action begins, guys. I want to just take off towards Odensov so you guys can see that. And I want to get up close so you guys can see just how beautiful these units are. I mean, look at that. We even got a little officer here. Once you see the full scale, and there is a way to do that, I believe it's this button. You can actually see how many units we have just on that front line. Now let's get to some actual combat action. That's what we're all here for, and what I think makes this game really one of the best World War II Eastern Front strategy games. All right, guys, we've got our first contact, and this is exactly what I was talking about. I just ordered this unit back here, these units back here, to assist in the fight. Another thing we could do is send them up over here and try to flank the enemy, but we've just spotted them, and of course now the gunfight begins. You see a few little dots on the outskirts there, but that doesn't really tell us what's going on just yet. They could have a whole lot more men stored up there, and it looks like they might actually have some units here, and that could also be a trench line. So there's also a lot of different ways to approach the situation with your existing military units. I'm seeing some smoke over there. That's concerning because it could be a vehicle moving, or maybe it's just a smoke grenade. Nonetheless, the enemy is definitely trying to defend this location. And let's actually get a look at them. We'll get a look at the Soviet line here. Looks like we actually took out one of their radio operators. I like that. This one just got hit as well. And if we go back here, we've got a few Soviet commissars that are watching over things. I'm not seeing any trenches, so hopefully we have avoided a trench line, and it would just be a straightforward infantry battle here to the death. But the game is just so beautiful in its approach. I mean, the explosions cause massive craters on the earth. The vehicles are destroyed vehicles, burned out vehicles, etc. They do appear in the game. So if you're doing a campaign and you destroy a vehicle, number one, you get to watch it explode and burn up and all that. But number two, when you return to that particular battle area, maybe for a second battle, that same hulking wreck is going to be right there waiting for you. I think that level of detail really just deserves an honorable mention, an honorable mention at the least, I would say, but definitely a recommendation, I think, is in order. And again, this is one of many campaigns that we just actually saw a guy get killed, and I believe some captives taken. So these units have surrendered to us. They'll simply put their arms up at some point and start walking towards our lines. Just beautiful. But look at that, a cause for concern. When we look over here, it looks like the Soviets have some... Actually, no, we're okay. Just a couple supply trucks. Nonetheless, they have some units. I was worried they had some tanks or some sort of armor. But yeah, that doesn't look like something we should have too much trouble with. But again, just a very short battle there in Graviteam Tactics Maya's Front to show you how it works. Definitely think it belongs on the top 3 list. But let me know what you guys think. That's why I make these top 3 lists, is to get your guys' feedback on all of these different games. And all of my ideas. Sometimes the recommendations you guys put down below, like Steel Panthers as an example, actually get me to go out and purchase the game myself. So if I'm doing that for you, if you get to the end of these videos, consider also joining the channel. We really want to get more members here and make it so that we can make these videos a regular thing. And who knows, maybe one day there'll be a top 5 list. Believe me, there are more than enough games in this category and many others to make that happen. Not a good day for Ivan. Oh my goodness.